Hello Internet, I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Kimothy.
And you are back for some more Pokemon Theory videos. Now, right after the last one, Kim was bringing up a lot of questions and stuff that we don't really have answers to yet, and we really want to discuss with you guys what you think about several different topics, mainly relating down to Alolan forms and the Ultra Beasts. And sounds like based on all the questions that Kim's got right now, she wants to start with the Alolan forms. There's a lot of weird stuff in there, also relating back to the recent leaks, which is another thing I'm going to point out right now. Don't freak out. We will not show any pictures of any new Pokemon. We will not spoil anything or even mention like any other forms. But at least we want to at least say if anything pops up, the only thing, it's not a spoiler, the only thing that has shown up from those leaks that we've seen from Alolan forms or Ultra Beasts, they're just going to be like the concept of what you saw, and it's not going to spoil anything about it.
So nothing that was unofficially released.
Some stuff that we already knew, and it really just further confirmed. So don't worry about that. But anyway, one thing I wanted to say about Alolan forms that I know Kim hasn't said yet, and I was actually thinking about making a whole video about this before, was are we only going to get Alolan forms of Kanto Pokemon? Now I know some people have already talked about this, but what I find is really weird is, and further confirmed by more leaks, which I'm not going to get into, we haven't seen a single Alolan Pokemon of anything from Johto through Kalos. Nothing. It's just Kanto. Which makes me feel weird thinking, okay, if it's just Kanto, why is that? If it's just Kanto, does everything from Kanto get an Alolan form and we just don't know about it yet?
But can we say that's already been disproven by the demo?
Why?
Slowpokes.
Well, good point. I didn't think of that, but still, maybe there is an Alolan Slowpoke that we don't know of, but still, there's some weird stuff in the demo, like why pick certain Pokemon to look certain ways? And this another thing, maybe to counter your Slowpoke argument, certain islands do have different climates, which is their reasoning for having different versions of Pokemon. Maybe you go to a volcanic one and there is a fire Slowpoke or something like that. Maybe there is a very fast one that has to be fast for some reason, right? So maybe it's in a desert and it can't fish with its tail and it's got to run. I can counter you, but still, that at least was my point. Why are we only getting Kanto? I really want to hear what you guys think about that, but at least to move on, because Kim's got some more questions about Alolan forms.
We already know that more than just Kanto exists inside of Alola. We have Corsolas as well, which is Johto.
They've also mentioned Murkrows in the video, in the demo. We see Pelipper, we see Miltank. There's a Granbull statue in the police department. It's not so much confirming they're in the game, but still, we've seen too many other Pokemon from other generations to assume that it's not just Alola and Kanto Pokemon in this game, which would be cool. I wouldn't have a problem with that, but we've seen other ones. So,
but for them to go ahead and create an Alolan form of everything, that's them essentially making another 600 and something odd Pokemon with different forms.
Not of everything. I think they're only going to stick to Kanto. If it was more than Kanto, we'd have seen at least one by now. We haven't. So I think it's kind of safe to assume they're just Kanto Pokemon, which is weird. And if they're just Kanto Pokemon, why are there only some Kanto Pokemon? Now, it's kind of like if, for Mega Evolution, when that came out, if we only saw Kanto Pokemon with Mega Evolution, we would have had the same thought. Does this mean every final stage in Kanto is getting a Mega Evolution? Or is it just going to be, select ones that they pick? Which is kind of odd, because to be fair, they've picked some weird ones. Mm-hmm. If they're going to pick certain kinds, if we're going to get an Alolan Executor, why is there no Execute yet? We don't know yet. And if there's an Alolan Marowak, why is there no Alolan Cubone yet? Which is another thing, we're not going to get into it now, but if you haven't seen the video about talking about the other leaks, non-spoiler wise, you should check that video out because it kind of changes how you understand this discussion. But anyway, getting back to other things about the Alolan forms, because you were just going off on several, non-stop other questions you had.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that I was concerned about with the Alolan forms, is that if you catch an Alolan form Vulpix in Alola, and in maybe a future game, I guess, you could transfer it to Kanto, is it still going to be an Alolan form Vulpix? Or if I have a Kanto Vulpix and I trade it over to Alola, is it going to stay a Kanto Vulpix? Which I think that's the way.
I think they certainly will. Pokemon has shown us for years that they know how to make multiple forms of one Pokemon, and it still retains that one number in your decks. We've seen Unknown, Vivillon. They've done this so many different ways. The only ones that haven't done that were from like the first generation, the Nidoran lines, and that's just the coding thing. They couldn't do it at the time. So I think for sure, if you catch an Alolan Vulpix, it will just say Vulpix, right? And it will be in your Pokedex. But if you trade it over another one from another game, it will still say Vulpix. It will just look different, have a different type. Which was another thing we were talking about. How do you evolve an Alolan Vulpix? We don't really want to get into that, but we're like, you can't really give it a Firestone, can you? Like, what do you do? But anyway, aside from that, there was some other things.
I mean, this also goes to the thing, like, if I have, say we figured out how to evolve, well, we can evolve a Kanto Vulpix. If we brought the Kanto Vulpix into Alola and we give it a Firestone, is it going to evolve into Alola Ninetales, or is it going to evolve into a Kanto Ninetales? Like, I still believe that it should evolve into original Kanto.
It should turn into the Kanto one.
That is, the coding is from the original Kanto.
It's not even just the coding. I think the whole reasoning behind Alolan forms is these Pokemon over time have evolved differently from other things. Like you were saying, a lot of the inspiration for this game, aside from Hawaii-based, is also the Galapagos Islands, which if you guys don't know, there's a lot of weird actual animals that have evolved over time and look very different from very similar animals across, just on different islands.
Right.
And it's a really weird area. And because of that idea, that is why they want different forms of the same Pokemon to be native to different islands. And because of that, it's an evolutionary thing, not Pokemon evolution where it happens like that. I mean evolution over a long period of time. Read their reasonings for why each Pokemon is their own way. Like Grimers, they brought over because they were going to eat the garbage, and over time they changed forms and looked different. The Vulpix and the Sandshrews adapted to a different environment over time. The Meowths were pampered by these people, and because of that looked different. So all of these things, I think, are over time, which means they will not change. They will permanently be added. This is a new version of a Vulpix you can get, a new version of an Executor. So if I bring up, say, my shiny Executor that I really like, as far as I can tell, I don't think there's any way to change its form to an Alolan form, though I was bringing this up to Kim earlier. There have been other forms of Pokemon, say Deoxys, or the Tornado Trio Genie guys, Thundurus, Tornadus, and Landorus, that have had other forms that at the time there was no other way to obtain them other than doing specific things. Like for Deoxys, you had to play Emerald to get his speed form, right, and stuff like that. So, or the Tornado guys, you had to play this weird DS game in order to transfer them over, and that was the only way to get that form. But later, they made very simple ways to change Deoxys' form by going up to certain meteorites, and poof, now it's this form, because it was not obtainable anymore. And so they made it very simple. So I've got a feeling, if not in this generation, in the next one for sure, they're going to make something that just poof, changes your Pokemon's form. And for better or for worse, that's just my opinion because of what they've done in the past. This is just based on the formula that they've been rehashing for the most part. Say, like, as opposed, because that DS game would be inaccessible to people who are trying to get the different forms of Tornadus and Thundurus. Instead, you just go up to this character, get this mirror object, and poof, now you can turn them on and off all the time, whatever you want. You know, same thing for Kyurem's form. They're going to keep giving you these items so that people can change their forms. But other than that, was there anything else Alolan forms that we were kind of curious about?
I think that pretty much covers everything we were curious about with the Alolan forms.
Yeah, I'm still really unsure, especially about how many more are in the game, because if you guys didn't, I don't want to keep going back to that other video we were talking about, but I do not believe from the leaks that those are all of the Pokemon. I don't believe that at all. And because of that, I'm still keeping it up in the air that we might get an Alolan form of everything in Kanto. that might be pushing it far because that is a lot of work.
I would still say, excluding legendaries and things like that, because
I don't
those
know.
are so native region specific. There's no way a legendary would have a
I don't know.
form.
Wouldn't it be so cool though if a Moltres for some reason had to nest in the icy area?
But there's only one Moltres. I am still in that theory that
No,
you
there's
go
not.
into that Pokemon game, there is only one legendary of that existing.
But there's
in that world.
not. In Kalos, we caught a Mewtwo, a different Mewtwo. And even in the anime, they acknowledge that there are different versions of the same legendaries because we had a very different Mewtwo in the recent movie with Mewtwo and the Genesect. That
But
was not the
didn't
Mewtwo from the
they-
first game.
But didn't that Mewtwo specifically reference things from Mewtwo Returns?
I don't think so. I don't remember that, but I did watch it, but I don't remember it doing that. But either way,
It
in
sounds like
Kalos, there is a different Mewtwo, and I remember them saying, Pokemon said this somewhere, that is a different Mewtwo. It is not
But
the
how
one
did
from the
that
original
happen?
game. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense because they had to have engineered
Unrelated.
But still, my point was, it can happen. And they've done it before. The Kanto birds have showed up in Kalos. Mewtwo showed up in Kalos. I think it's possible that for some reason an Articuno could have nested in the volcano and changed forms. What if they all cycled elements? Wouldn't that
would be weird.
That'd be so weird, but that'd be kind of cool.
I would prefer them to become a completely different element than what the three are,
Yeah.
Like if suddenly one was psychic, and then
Which stuff like that has happened. I mean, but stuff like that has happened too. I mean, look at Raichu. Out of nowhere, it's surfing on its tail and it's part psychic.
so adorable!
But still, anyway, we've talked about Alolan forms for a while now. I'm pretty sure we've covered all that because we want to move on to Ultra Beasts too, and this is not going to take quite as long, but we had a couple weird feelings about the Ultra Beasts. Once again, kind of inspired from what we've seen from leaks. We're not going to spoil them once again, but kind of further confirming our suspicions about Ultra Beasts. One thing that we've seen in those leaks that was very strange was that they have shiny forms. What the heck? Okay, because why that's so weird is we have seen through the demo and in other videos there are totem Pokemon, there are Spirit Guardian Pokemon, there are Pokemon bosses in this game, which is really cool. But that's what we assumed an Ultra Beast was up to this point. And say you're playing through the story and for some reason, I don't know, you're in some sort of situation where you get attacked by some giant jellyfish thing, right? And it's a boss and you have to destroy it, not capture it. And that's different. Pokemon's never done that before. It's really cool for them to try new stuff. But why does it have a shiny form? If it has a shiny form that only says you can catch it, I don't know why on earth they would make it have a shiny form if you cannot obtain it.
Right.
Except
to laugh at you because,
and they've done that before in the past, but I think it was just more accidental. Say in Ruby and Sapphire, if you start your Pokemon game and you have a shiny Poochyena and you can't catch it, or Wally goes in the patch of grass and finds a shiny Ralts. That is awful, but it was more
but
just...
these are very intentional shinies,
Right,
here they
this is
are.
the only way you would have obtained this Pokemon.
They're not even labeled as Pokemon. There are no names on them saying that these are Pokemon.
Which is another good point. We don't know if they even have Dex entries, if they would be categorized as Pokemon. If that's the case, why do they have shiny forms? That's so weird. If it was a boss, sure, it's just a boss. Maybe you're in some sort of environment that meets one sort of boss thing's needs and it appears, and maybe it's story-based. You have to beat so many boss Pokemon monster
I'm really
things.
hoping you're more like a character in the actual game
Right.
versus a catchable Pokemon, but these shiny forms are throwing all of that out the window for me.
Right. The recent leaks really messed this up because at this point we've all kind of assumed Ultra Beast. They called it Ultra Beast. They didn't call it legendary, new Pokemon. They never said any of those words. They said Ultra Beast. And aside from that, they also numbered them, which was really weird. In their name, it was numbered. So that's just so bizarre that they did something so weird to them, though they could all be smaller legendary forms, you know, kind of like
But
in
if
3rd gen we
they're
have
not-
Latios, or the Reggies. They're not the main legendaries, but they could be still obtainable Pokemon that are still very powerful, but are not like, you know, cartridge, hey, look at me, I'm Solgaleo kind of
But the
legendary.
fact that they're not labeling them as Pokemon, to me, in the world of Pokemon, technology-wise, a Pokeball should not be able to catch it.
That's right. It's like
It's
if I
not
threw a
a
Pokeball at
a human being,
Yeah,
you know?
your that weird friend of yours in the beginning of the game, and I catch him. You know, that doesn't make sense. Or like in Pokemon the anime, they throw a Pokeball and catch some food at one point. I remember in the
I remember that. Yeah,
they,
that makes
they,
sense.
they could do that, but it was a joke back then. But still, I have a weird feeling that you're actually going to be able to catch and obtain these things now because they have shiny forms. But I don't know if that actually defeats anything from the story because I haven't played it yet. So I don't want to go too far and say like, oh, this ruins certain things about them. But I kind of really liked the idea that it was a non-obtainable boss Pokemon monster thing that was very tough and you had to fight and you had no choice of catching it. Similar to the Black Kyurem, White Kyurem battle in Black 2, White 2. I thought that was kind of cool. You had to fight this really strong Pokemon, though I one-shotted it at the time and it really wasn't scary. But it was this really strong Pokemon that you can't catch. Your only objective is to kill it. I thought that was really cool to make that a repeat thing throughout the story. If you have the ability to catch them, that means, well, why are you killing it? You gotta save in front of each one and catch them now, because there's probably just one. And at that, it's a legendary. It's basically, turning all of them into legendaries.
if they're just labeling them as Ultra Beasts, that completely takes them off of the Pokedex in my mind. Now there's some additional decks.
Good point.
Because they have a different number system. They're already starting out at 1, so...
Well, they've been naming Pokemon really weird in this generation, too. We have Type Null. Type colon Null.
That's his name.
We also have, like, UB:01. Is that what it is? Like, one of the Ultra Beasts?
Yeah, I
UB
think that's
Ultra
the
Beast
jellyfish.
:01. Yeah, it's one. What? It's... I don't know. Is UB:01 actually Pokemon number 749 or something like that?
Like when we got the Sinnoh evolutions and like Mewtwo, where they were man-made. Like you got those Sinnoh evolutions that were made from Team Galactic or whatever meddling that made Tangrowth and
I don't think they
Licky
made them.
I thought they did.
You didn't play that game.
I did not.
I played that game. She didn't play that game. She's just saying stuff.
But I thought that's what you had told me, that they
No.
had made them.
Don't listen to Crazy.
Okay, never mind. Well, what if it's something like Mewtwo, where it was human-made from some kind of DNA or...
Mewtwo's in the Pokedex.
Yeah, and he is in the Pokedex, though. But these don't seem like they're going to
And
be
comes
in the
before
Pokedex.
Mew, which always confused me. Mewtwo
They never
happens before
found
Mew.
Mew. They found Mewtwo
They did so.
before they found Mew. They
That
found
is
Mew's
not-
DNA.
No, they found Mew.
They found Mew?
They found Mew.
Before
Play
they
the
found
games.
Mewtwo.
Play the games. They say that. So, anyway, we're getting off on a bit of a tangent on these guys too, but it's just really weird that they have shiny forms, and that is bringing up this whole discussion of what are they now? Because they can't just be bosses anymore unless they are bosses that can shine and totally piss the player off. I don't see what reason it would have to shine and look different other than just to frustrate people, or maybe it will be able to be accessed at a later date. Because at this point, maybe it could be like how in Black and White we had the shiny forms of, or a better example, we had the shiny form in Kalos, we had the shiny forms of Xerneas and Yveltal. We knew what they looked like, we just couldn't get them. They were shiny locked, it was frustrating. But later they made events giving them to us. So if these Pokemon are obtainable, they can give them to us as shiny forms. But still, maybe later, instead, if you can't catch them, they have a shiny form because there's an event where you can fight a shiny one, right? I don't know.
And they seem like they're so crucial to the game. Wouldn't they even have cutscenes to where they might be shiny locked anyway?
We have seen one in a cutscene.
We have?
Yeah, we have seen one in a cutscene. So that is another good point. We have seen, I think it was UB1, in one of the flashing by cutscenes that goes really fast. Actually, I think it was in the demo.
Was it at the demo?
And there's like a fraction of a second where you can see everyone in cutscene looking at it. We already know they are not going to go through the effort to change the cutscene variations to where it's rendered. Actually, no, I think I remember reading somewhere that these cutscenes are different. They're rendered in real time.
Yes, I remember reading that somewhere, that
If
they
they're
were
rendered in real time, that also could throw out my whole the starters are shiny locked theory, meaning that this starter can shine in cutscene for you. Same for the Ultra Beasts. So Never mind. Looks like we just completely nullified everything we were talking about, and now we're just confused.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I have no idea anymore, but at the very least, it opens up.
Now.
There were so many things we had to talk about in this video. Clearly, we didn't want to cram it into the end of the last one, but still, we want to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. But either way, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like the videos and subscribe for more, and we will see you all in the next Pokemon Theory video.
Bye-bye.